Okay, so let's look at a balance of payments example. And so a balance of payments, it's really like an accounting sheet for a country in terms of what transactions it does with other countries. And it's breaking down those transactions into a few different categories. One is the current account, and this includes monitoring and measuring transactions related to goods and services between one country and all of its other trading partners. Well, mostly goods and services. We also have the capital account. And this is less, there's less stuff going on here in the capital account. There's some like disposition of assets and other kind of minor things. But the other big category is the financial account. And this measures the transfer or trading between one country and all of its other trading partners in terms of stocks, bonds, investment securities, these types of things. And then also we have the sort of net errors and emissions, which I'll talk about in just a second. And then we have the reserve account. And reserves, not all countries have reserves. It may be a separate topic, but some countries do have reserves where they are, it's that country buying or selling other countries' currency. And the flow of that buying and selling for a country goes into that category called reserves. So let's say we had a country. So let's say we had a country that had the following reserves information. It had, these numbers are probably in billions, but 215,392 for the capital account, and the following numbers for the other categories. And you can see that some are surplus. That's a positive number. And that means in this case there's more for the current account exports than there are imports of goods and services. And here we have a minus 36 for the financial account. That means that there's a deficit in the financial account. And that means the country is basically buying more abroad in terms of financial securities than it is selling financial securities. And so these numbers aren't necessarily good or bad. It's just in terms of where the money flows are going. And then we have the final two categories here, both being negative. And so this is a simple question. What's the sum of these four categories? If you exclude reserves, what's the sum of these all together? And so if you did this calculation, you would find that it sums up to 96,555. And that's the same amount that you see here for the reserves. And the key point here is that the balance of payments, it's really just keeping track of money flows. And that's what we mean when the balance of payments always balances to zero. For some countries, you'll just see these, and there won't even be a reserves category at all. But for other countries, you'll see a very significant reserves component. And the main reason for that is whether or not a country chooses to manage its own currency. If it The US, for example, does not manage its own currency. It simply lets market forces decide what the value of the currency will be. The US certainly takes actions that affect its currency. For interest rates, for example, raising interest rates can increase the price of its currency, but they're not doing that with the specific intention of influencing the value of the currency. That's different than some countries who choose to keep their currency value within a certain range or at a certain level. And to do that, one of the ways that they do that is by buying and selling currencies of other countries. And through that buying and selling, they can affect the value of their own currency. But they need those other currencies sort of in their pocket to be able to do that type of strategy. And so when it comes to balance of payments, if you see a very large reserves position for a country, you know that that country is active in managing its currency.